You've ever walked into a room and immediately felt like you were being watched? If you've ever posted something online and then felt your chest tighten? If you've ever spoken in a group and suddenly wanted to disappear? This is not social anxiety. This is not low confidence. This is not overthinking. This is your emotional body scanning for threats. And the threats it's scanning for is not danger. It's actually judgment. Not logical judgment, not conscious judgment, but somatic judgment. The feeling of, I'm being perceived, I'm being evaluated, I'm being seen, I'm being measured, I'm being assessed. And your body goes, not safe, not safe, not safe. So today we're not fixing this with affirmations. We're not reframing it with mindset, and we're not talking ourselves out of it. We're going into the body, because fear of judgment does not live in your thoughts. It lives in energy body 2, the emotional body. If you're new here, hi, I'm Cherry, a spiritual life coach, numerologist, and energy body mentor. And I work with people pleasers who are deeply sensitive, highly intuitive, emotionally intelligent, and absolutely terrified of being seen. Not because they don't want to be visible, but because their nervous system has learned visibility equals emotional risk. And today we're not unwinding that by the root, not by becoming braver, but by becoming safer inside your own body. So let's strip this back to truth. Fear of judgment is not, I care what people think. It's, my body believes being seen is unsafe. Now, judgment is a somatic memory. Your body remembers moments like being laughed at, being corrected, being criticized or being misunderstood, being emotionally exposed or being punished for expression, being told you're too much, being told you're wrong, being shamed for feeling, being shamed for wanting, and being shamed for even just existing. And your nervous system has made a rule. When I am visible, something bad happens. So now your body doesn't wait for danger. It preempts it. It scans faces, tones, energy shifts, eye contact, even the silence and micro reactions, and goes, are we safe? Are we safe? Are we safe? That's energy body 2 in hypervigilance. Now, most people think perception lives in the mind. It doesn't. Perception lives in the emotional body. Now, energy body 2 is what reads emotional atmospheres, social energy unspoken dynamics, relational tension, microsignals, vibes and moods. It's the body that says something feels off, someone feels uncomfortable, I feel watched, exposed, or I feel evaluated. This is why sensitive people struggle more with judgment. They're not weak, they're just highly perceptive. But without emotional boundaries, perception becomes over-responsibility. You don't just notice the room, you actually absorb it. You don't just feel the gaze, you become it. And suddenly your body is performing for safety. So let's go back to where this started. At some point in your life, being seen created emotional discomfort. Maybe you expressed yourself and were mocked. You shared feelings and were dismissed. You spoke and were corrected. You showed emotion and were shamed. You took up space and were told to calm down. You were different and felt it. So your emotional body learned visibility equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals potential pain. So it built protection, not walls, not logic, and not mindset, but somatic contraction, tight shoulders, collapsed chest, shallow breathing, a frozen jaw, tense belly, eyes scan and your body that shrinks. That's fear of judgment in a physical form, not a thought, a posture. Now, year 1 is not about confidence. It's about permission to exist. Year 1 energy says, if I am allowed to be visible in my becoming, I am allowed to be messy. I'm allowed to be unpolished. I am allowed to be new. I'm allowed to be learning all this. And I'm allowed to be seen before I'm perfect. For people pleasers, this is radical because their nervous system has learned, be perfect before you're visible. Be safe before you're honest. Be light before you're real. Year 1 breaks that. Year 1 actually says you don't need approval to exist. You don't need mastery to be seen. You don't need permission to take up space. And the emotional body goes, that feels terrifying. All because it's new. Now, year 10 is the release of the performance, the end of masking, editing, filtering. diluting and softening, performing and people managing. Year 10 is when you realize you were never scared of judgment. You were scared of losing connection. So you shapeshifted, you mirrored, you adapted, you became what was needed. And year 10 says, I don't contort myself to be safe anymore. I let myself be perceived as I am. I release the need to be palatable. That's emotional liberation. So now I want us to go into the body. This is not a visualization. This is nervous system training. So whether you're sitting or standing, make sure your feet are flat on the floor. Hands on the thighs or on your heart. Gently soften your eyes, not closed, just softened. Let your gaze relax. Now notice, is your body bracing? Is your chest tight? Is your jaw tense? Or is your breath shallow? That's your system preparing for judgment. Now place one hand on your chest, one hand on your lower belly, and say internally, it is safe to be seen. Not loudly, not forcibly, somatically. Let your body respond. You may feel resistance, tears or tightness, warmth, release, or even fear. All of it is energy body 2 recalibrating. This is how you rewire judgment fear. Not by thinking differently, by teaching your body safety in visibility. Now, fear of judgment dissolves when your body stops associating visibility with threat. Not when you become more confident. Not when you care less what people think. Not when you just stop overthinking, but when your emotional body feels safe to exist while being perceived. That's the real work. So at this point in the video, I hope you've realized something big. That you're not insecure, but only that you are protecting yourself. Your body learned being seen once hurt, so now it avoids it everywhere. So in this next part, I want you to understand why your body collapses under eye contact, why you freeze when attention is on you, why social situations feel draining, and how to build somatic capacity for visibility. Not mentally, not spiritually, but psychologically. So I want you to start thinking, oh, my body literally learned to shut down when attention is on me. This is the part where you feel physically seen. This part is called the nervous system mechanics of judgment and fear. It's why your body freezes, collapses, or disassociates when you're seen. Because when attention comes towards you, like eye contact, questions, silence, being watched, your body does not think, oh, people are just looking at me. Your body thinks, I'm being assessed. An assessment to the nervous system, shaped by early relational experiences, equals threat. So your system automatically activates one of 3 responses. The first is freeze. Your mind goes blank. You can't find the words. You feel small. You feel stuck and your body feels heavy. The second is collapse. You apologize, laugh nervously, minimize yourself, lose your voice and soften your presence. The third is fawn. You perform, people please, become extra agreeable, manage the room and overcompensate. These are not personality traits. These are automatic nervous system responses. Your body is not insecure. It's protecting you from perceived emotional danger. Here's something no one talks about. Attention is intimacy to the nervous system. Being looked at, being listened to, being focused on, being the center of perception. For sensitive emotional bodies, that feels like exposure. Not because you're weak, but because attention once meant scrutiny, evaluation, correction, pressure, expectations, and performance. So now when attention comes your way, your system goes, I'm about to be judged. Not consciously, but somatically. This is why public speaking feels terrifying. Group settings drain you. Being filmed feels exposing. Social media triggers your nervous system. Eye contact feels intense and silence feels threatening. Your emotional body associates attention with relational risks. Now, judgment fear is actually a shame imprint. Not I did something bad, but something about me is wrong. Now, shame is not a thought. It's a felt sense of defectiveness in the body. It forms when you were emotionally corrected, when you were criticized, when you were compared, when you were laughed at, when you were told to calm down, when you were told to be less, when you were told to be different, and when you were told you were too much. So your body learned. My expression creates discomfort. And now when you're seen, your system goes, better hide, better soften, better shrink, better mask myself, better disappear. Not because you're wrong, but because your body is trying to prevent shame. Now, year 1 is the year you build capacity. Not confidence, but capacity. Capacity to be looked at, be listened to, be focused on, be perceived, be witnessed, and be visible without collapsing. Year 1 is where your nervous system learns, I don't have to perform to survive attention. You're literally training your body. It's safe to be seen. Nothing bad happens when I'm perceived. I don't disappear under a gaze. I don't lose myself under attention. This is nervous system maturity. Year 10 is the release of the identity. I am the one who must be careful, the one who monitors themselves, edits themselves, checks themselves, corrects themselves, polices themselves. Year 10 is when that identity dissolves, not through force, but through embodiment. Your system learns, I don't need to protect myself from being me. That's when judgment fear collapses, because there's nothing left to hide. Now, this practice is incredibly powerful. So I want you to sit comfortably, soften your body, relax your jaw and relax your shoulders. Now imagine someone gentle looking at you, not critically, not intensely, just neutrally. Notice what happens in your body. Do you tighten, hold your breath, shrink, brace, disassociate, or smile automatically? That's your nervous system reacting to gaze. Now place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. And say internally, I'm allowed to be perceived. Let your system feel that. Stay with the sensation. Don't fix it. Don't analyze it. Just be with it. This is how you build gaze tolerance, the ability to be seen without self-abandonment. Visibility is exhausting for sensitive people because they're not just present. They're monitoring themselves. They're tracking how they sound, how they look, how they're perceived, how they're coming across, and how they're affecting others. That's massive emotional labor. So of course you feel tired. You're running on an internal surveillance system. When that stops, your body feels safe being seen. Visibility becomes energizing, not draining. So fear of judgment is not about other people. It's about your relationship with being perceived. And that relationship only shifts when your emotional body learns being seen does not require self-protection. That's the real liberation. So now I hope you know that you weren't shy, you're not broken, and you weren't insecure. You were just protecting yourself from shame. And in the next part, we're going to go deeper on how to feel safe in groups, how to stay embodied in social energy, how to stop scanning rooms, and how to hold your nervous system in public, and how to reclaim visibility without collapse. This is the part that changes how you walk into the rooms for the rest of your lives. It's about how to stay in your body instead of scanning the room. Now, most sensitive people think they feel overwhelmed in groups because they're introverted, they're empathic, they're too open and they pick up energy. But that's not the real reason. They feel overwhelmed because their nervous system leaves their body and actually enters the room. The moment you walk into a social space, your system goes, who's here? What's the mood? Is there tension? Who looks uncomfortable? Who's watching me? Who needs something? Who feels off? Now that's not awareness, that's hypervigilance. Your emotional body is scanning for threats and responsibility. So instead of being in yourself, you become embedded in the collective field, and that is exhausting. Now, Energy Body 2 has a superpower, emotional perception, but without it becomes an emotional radar. You're constantly picking up microfacial expressions, tone shifts, body language, any silence, tension or awkwardness, or even energy changes. And your body interprets all of this as, I need to manage this. Again, not consciously, but somatically. So your nervous system is doing emotional labor for the entire room. That's why you leave social situations completely drained. Not because people are too much, but because you're not staying with yourself. This is the loop most people pleasers live in. 1, you enter a social space. 2, your nervous system scans. 3, emotional body tracks everyone. 4, self leaves the body. 5, energy goes outward. 6, your hyper responsibility activates. 7, exhaustion follows. 8, you then withdraw happens. And 9, it's repeated. And they think, I'm just socially tired. But what's actually happening is you're not present. You're performing safety. Your body is trying to prevent judgment or rejection, discomfort, awkwardness or disapproval. So it becomes a social regulator. And that is not connection, that is survival. Now, year one is the year of re-inhabitation. You are learning how to stay inside yourself while being with others, not disappear into the room, not dissolve into the group, not become the emotional caretaker, but to literally feel your feet, your legs, your spine, your breath, your chest. Year one says, I exist as a body in this space, not I exist as a function in this space. This is the shift from social performance to social presence. And year 10 is where you release the belief that you're responsible for the emotional field. You stop holding space for everyone, stabilizing the rooms, managing the vibes, absorbing the tension, regulating dynamics. Not because you don't care, but because you're no longer abandoning yourself. Year 10 says, I allow the room to be what it is. I allow others to feel what they feel. I stay in my own nervous system. This is emotional adulthood in social form. This is one of the most important practices for you that I want to give you. Imagine walking into a room. Now, instead of scanning, bring attention to your feet. Feel the weight of your body, the ground, your breath, your spine. Say internally, I am here in my body. Not is everyone okay? Not how am I coming across? Not what do they think? Just I am here. This anchors Energy Body 2 back into self. Now add a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly and feel, I stay with myself. This is social sovereignty. This is emotional embodiment. This is nervous system leadership. And here's the shift that changes everything. Instead of I'm in a room with people watching me, it becomes I am a body existing among other bodies, not performing, not managing, not monitoring, just existing. When that lands somatically, judgment fear loses its grip because your nervous system is no longer seeking safety from the room. It's generating safety internally. Judgment fear dissolves when you stop leaving yourself to manage social energy. Not when people are nicer, not when rooms are safer, not when you become more confident, but when your emotional body learns. I do not need to regulate the collective to be safe. That's the deepest liberation of Energy Body 2. Now, in this next part of the video, we're going to be moving into reclaiming visibility as a pleasure, your nervous system leadership, embodied presence, and how to become someone who is seen without effort. Not by performing, not by fixing, and not by masking, but by being. This is where the fear of judgment stops being something to heal and becomes something that no longer runs the nervous system at all. So let's move on to how to being seen without performing, shrinking, or disappearing. Here is the truth that no one says out loud. Judgment fear doesn't disappear because people become kinder. It disappears because you stop negotiating your existence. Not aggressively, not defensively, and not rebelliously, but somatically. Your body stops asking, is this okay? Am I safe? Am I accepted? Am I approved or am I welcome? And start saying, I am here. That's it. No performance, no permission, no justification. Just presence. That's the moment Energy Body 2 matures. This is the deepest reframe. Most people experience visibility as an exposure risk, vulnerability, threat, danger, or evaluation. But healed Energy Body 2 experience visibility as contact, connection, aliveness, participation, witnessing, and expression. When your body is regulated, being seen feels intimate, not threatening. Not because you're confident, but because you're home in yourself. So presence becomes pleasurable, not performance. This is the identity shift. You are no longer being led by the room, group, a gaze, the energy, the mood, or the reactions. Your nervous system becomes the anchor point. Other people's systems can resist or fall. Yours stays, not rigid, not detached, and not shut down, but regulated, embodied, and present. This is what leadership actually is. Not control, not dominance, and not charisma. Regulation, invisibility. The ability to be seen without losing yourself. Year one is the birth of I do not require external approval to exist. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop negotiating your presence. You don't ask, is it okay if I'm here? Is it okay if I speak? Is it okay if I feel? Or is it okay if I take up space? You simply exist. Year 1 is innocence reclaimed. Not ego, not entitlement, just natural existence without self-monitoring. Year 10 is when that innocence becomes authority. Not authority over others, authority over your own nervous system. You become someone who doesn't flinch under a gaze, doesn't shrink under attention, doesn't perform under pressure, and doesn't disappear under perception. Not because you're tough, but because you're now rooted. And year 10 is stand in my presence and allow the world to respond. That's emotional sovereignty. This final bit is the integration practice. So again, either sitting or standing comfortably. Soften your body, soften your face, and soften your breath. Imagine yourself standing in a room, not performing, not speaking, just existing. People can see you. You are visible. Now feel your feet, your breath, your spine and your chest, and say internally, I allow myself to be seen. Not as an affirmation, as permission. Let your body respond. This is the moment Energy Body 2 realizes visibility does not require self-protection. That is how fear dissolves, not by force, by safety. Here is the line that completes this entire video. I no longer disappear to survive being perceived. This is the end of the masking, performing, monitoring, shrinking, people-pleasing and self-editing. This is the beginning of presence, embodiment, visibility and connection, self-expression and leadership. So if you felt something shift in your body today, if you noticed tension release, if you felt softer, more grounded, if you felt less reactive, that's not imagination. That's your nervous system learning a new reality. You can be seen and remain whole. You can be perceived and stay present. You can exist in the world without performing safety. And that is not confidence. That is emotional sovereignty. That is Energy Body 2 integrated. That is year 1 initiated. That is year 10 embodied. You are no longer surviving visibility. You are inhabiting it. So if this work resonated, if you felt your body respond, this is exactly the depth we go to inside my self-empowerment strategy session and my boundary building strategy session. These are free 30-minute sessions with you and me. This is not surface level coaching. This is nervous system leadership, emotional embodiment and identity reclamation. And if you're ready to stop shrinking, stop performing, stop disappearing, and start actually existing in your body, your truth and your presence, this is your work. Not to become someone new, but to finally stop leaving yourself behind. There are also free freebies in the description box below to get you started. So I would love for you to hit subscribe, tap that notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, share it with somebody who you think would really get a lot of value out of this video. Until next time, bye for now.